So, picture this. The Galactic Council, 13 of the most advanced species in the known universe, sitting in a conference room that probably costs more than Earth's entire GDP, congratulating themselves on how civilized they've become. They've got energy shields that can stop literally anything. Asteroids, missiles, angry, ex-wives. You name it. They've been using these shields for the past 5,000 years, and in all that time, not a single council member has suffered so much as a stubbed toe. They're so proud of themselves. They've actually banned physical combat throughout civilized space, called it barbaric, primitive. The kind of thing you'd expect from species who still eat solid food and experience emotions. These folks have evolved beyond all that messy biological nonsense. They're pure enlightenment, wrapped in smug superiority and protected by impenetrable force fields. Enter Jack Malone, human cargo hauler, currently having the worst Tuesday of his life. Jack didn't want to be anywhere near the Galactic Council's headquarters on Statia Zenithine. He just wanted to deliver his shipment of genuine Earth's coffee to some wealthy collector in Sector 7, collect his credits, and maybe catch a nap in his cargo hold. The coffee thing was a side hustle. Apparently, caffeine-based beverages were considered exotic delicacies in this part of the galaxy, which Jack found hilarious because back on Earth, this stuff came from a gas station. But then his navigation system decided to have a stroke right as he was passing through the Station S diplomatic zone. One moment he is cruising along, half asleep and listening to classic rock. The next moment his ship is careening through the docking bay and straight through the walls of the Council's sacred assembly hall. Sacred assembly hall. Jack's beat-up cargo hauler, the rusty nickel, punched through 3 layers of decorative crystal walls before coming to a stop right in the middle of their big, important meeting. Emergency lights flashed, alarms waited, and 13 very startled alien dignitaries stared at his ship like he'd just crashed a funeral. Jack popped the hatch, stuck his head out, and did what any reasonable human would do in this situation. He waved awkwardly and said, "My bad." The silence that followed was the kind of silence that makes your skin crawl. The kind where, you've messed up so badly that words haven't been invented yet to describe how much trouble you're in. Then Ambassador Krelthor rose from his floating meditation platform. Krelthor was of Exnari, which meant he looked like someone had taken a mantis, given it 6 arms, painted it electric blue, and then given it a philosophy degree and an attitude problem. His energy shield shimmered around him like a soap bubble made of pure arrogance. "A human," Krelthor said, his voice dripping with disdain. "How utterly predictable. Your species has been in space for what? 200 of your years, and already you're crashing into diplomatic functions like drunken asteroid miners." Jack climbed out of his ship, dusting off his jacket. "Look, man, I said I was sorry. My nav system went haywire. I'll pay for the walls. Just let me grab my insurance information and we can insurance," Krelthor interrupted. All 6 of his arms gesturing dramatically. The human speaks of insurance while standing in the ruins of a 5,000-year-old heritage site. "Captain Vex, scan the vessel. I want to know what weapons this primitive brought into our sacred space." Captain Vex, the Council's security chief, looked like a bipedal lizard who'd been hitting the gym way too hard. He wore more armor than seemed necessary for someone with a personal force field, but Jack figured that was probably overcompensation. Vex pulled out a scanner that made an annoying beeping sound and waved it over the rusty nickel. "Ambassador, I'm detecting hazardous materials in the cargo hold. Chemical compounds, consistent with biological warfare agents." Jack blinked. "That's coffee, dude. Coffee," Vex repeated slowly, like Jack had just admitted to carrying antimatter warheads. "Yeah, coffee. Brown liquid. Makes you alert. Humans, drink it. It's not a weapon, it's a beverage." Krelthor's shield flickered with what Jack could only assume was indignation, a stimulant-based compound intended for biological consumption. This human admits to trafficking in addictive substances. It's not okay. You know what? This is going great. Really feeling the interstellar cooperation here. The ambassador leaned forward. his shield pulsing brighter. "Tell me, human, do your people still engage in physical violence, striking each other with your appendages like animals?" Jack thought about the bar fight he'd gotten into last month on Mars Station. "I mean, sometimes, when the situation calls for it." The entire council gasped. Actually, gasped, like Jack had just confessed to eating babies. "Then, it is decided," Krelther announced. "This human will undergo the trial of superiority. We will demonstrate once and for all why violence is the refuge of the inferior, and why the Council's shields represent the pinnacle of civilized defense." Jack raised his hand. "Can I maybe just pay a fine instead? The trial begins in 1 hour. Captain Vex, escort our guest to the arena." And that's how Jack's coffee delivery turned into the worst day of his life. Well, the worst day so far. It was about to get a lot more interesting. Captain Vex escorted Jack through the station S corridors, with a kind of enthusiasm usually reserved for taking out the trash. The security chief's energy shield hummed constantly, a perpetual reminder that he was untouchable and wanted everyone to know it. Behind them floated a small drone carrying Jack's confiscated cargo manifest, which apparently the Council had decided was evidence of humanity's barbaric nature. "So, this trial of superiority thing," Jack said, trying to keep his tone casual. "That sounds pretty violent for a bunch of folks who are supposedly above all that." Vex's reptilian eyes narrowed. "The trial is not violent. It is educational. We demonstrate the futility of aggression through technological superiority. No one is harmed. Unlike your primitive gladiatorial combat, we don't really do gladiatorial combat anymore. That was like 2,000 years ago." "Only 2,000. Vex stopped walking, his shield pulsing with what Jack was beginning to recognize as alien superiority syndrome. "My people abandoned physical conflict 11,000 years ago. Your species, as an infant playing with sticks. They entered an elevator that went sideways, which Jack's stomach did not appreciate. Through the transparent walls, he could see the station's interior. Floating gardens, anti-gravity sculptures, aliens of every description going about their business in their personal force fields. It looked like a science fiction convention had merged with a luxury resort and then been given unlimited funding. "I gotta ask," Jack said, "if you're all so advanced and peaceful, why do you need a security chief?" Vex's mouth twisted into something that might have been a smile on a friendlier face. "To protect against species like yours. The Council has many enemies among the primitive races. Those who resent our superiority. Those who would strike us down if they could." He tapped his shield proudly. "But they cannot. No weapon in the known universe can breach our barriers." "Sounds like you've got it all figured out." "We do." The elevator deposited them in a waiting area outside. Vex called the demonstration arena. Through the windows, Jack could see a massive circular space with stadium seating rising up in tiers. Thousands of aliens were already filing in, apparently excited to watch a human get humiliated for their entertainment. "Great," Jack muttered. "Intergalactic pay-per-view." A nervous-looking alien approached them, clutching a datapad with what might have been tentacles or possibly just really weird hands. Jack honestly couldn't tell. The alien resembled a jellyfish that had been given limbs and a severe anxiety disorder. Its translator struggled with a rapid-fire speech. "Captain Vexer, hello. Yes, I'm Tech Officer Blorp, assigned to today's demonstration. Very exciting, very routine. Although we've never had a human before, which is unusual but not problematic. Probably. Hopefully, unless Blorp," Vex interrupted. "Status report." "Yes, right. Status, of course." Blorp's tentacles danced across the datapad. "The arena shields are calibrated to maximum demonstration settings. We have representatives from the Krix Collective bringing plasma weapons, the Thorian Empire with their sonic disruptors, and the Psionic Enclave volunteered to attempt a mental assault on the barriers. All completely futile, of course, as our shields are impervious to every known form of attack." Jack raised an eyebrow. "You guys do this often? Just invite people to shoot at your shields. Educational outreach," Blorp explained, still not making eye contact. Every few cycles we demonstrate Council superiority to remind the younger species why violence is obsolete. It's very effective, very safe, completely impossible to breach our defenses. The math is very clear on this. I've run the calculations 17,000 times. 17,000 seems like overkill. I like to be thorough. Ambassador Krelther materialized from a transport pad, his 6 arms carrying various ceremonial objects that probably had deep cultural significance, but looked like fancy paperweights to Jack. The other council members filed in behind him, each one surrounded by their personal shields, each one looking at Jack like he was a particularly disappointing science project. Human. Krelther announced, "You will witness the power of true civilization. After the other demonstrations conclude, you will be given the opportunity to attack a shield using whatever primitive methods your species favors. When you inevitably fail, you will publicly acknowledge humanity's inferiority, and we will consider your debt to the Council settled. And if I don't want to participate, then you will spend the next 30 of your years in a rehabilitation facility learning proper civilized behavior." Jack did some quick mental math. 30 years in alien jail versus punching a force field and admitting humans were UNT as cool as mantis philosophers. "Yeah, okay. I'll take the punching option." "Excellent. The trial will be broadcast across 14 sectors. Your species will learn a valuable lesson today." They led Jack into the arena. The crowd noise hit him like a wave. Thousands of aliens, all chattering in hundreds of languages, all waiting to see the primitive human fail. Jack had performed in front of crowds before, back when he played guitar in a terrible college band. But this was different. This was hostile. In the center of the arena stood a raised platform with a single pedestal. On that pedestal sat a shield generator the size of a beach ball, glowing with soft blue light. Next to it stood a Vexnari volunteer, probably some unlucky intern who'd been volunteered to get shot at for educational purposes. Blorp's voice echoed through the arena speakers. "Welcome, esteemed observers, to today's demonstration of superiority. Please direct your attention to Shield Generator Delta 7, which will now withstand attacks from multiple advanced weapon systems without sustaining any damage whatsoever." The crowd applauded politely. Jack found a seat and settled in for what was clearly going to be a long show. The council really loved patting themselves on the back, and apparently they'd built an entire arena just for that purpose. A Crick soldier, looking like an insect made of polished bronze, stepped forward with a plasma rifle that hummed with barely contained energy. The weapon looked expensive and dangerous, the kind of thing that could probably vaporize a tank. "Plasma Accelerator Mark 9, Blorp announced nervously, capable of generating temperatures exceeding 50,000 degrees. Please observe." The Cricks fired. The blast hit the shield with a flash of brilliant light. The arena's safety systems dimmed automatically to protect everyone's eyes. When the light faded, the shield was still there, unchanged, and the volunteer behind it waved cheerfully at the crowd. The aliens applauded again. Jack yawned. This was going to be a long hour. For the next 45 minutes, Jack watched what could only be described as the galaxy's most expensive failure compilation. Species after species stepped up to take their shot at the Council's shields, and species after species walked away looking deeply embarrassed. It would have been funny if it wasn't so painfully boring. The Thorian Empire brought their sonic disruptors, weapons that could shatter stone with focused sound waves. They cranked the things up to maximum power and unleashed a blast that made Jack's teeth hurt. The shield didn't even flicker. The Thorian operator checked his equipment 3 times, convinced something was broken, before finally accepting defeat and slinking back to his seat. Then came the Psionic Enclave, a group of floating brain creatures who claimed they could manipulate reality with their thoughts. They gathered in a circle around the shield and concentrated so hard that one of them gave himself a nosebleed. The shield remained supremely unimpressed. Jack felt a little bad for them. At least the Thorians had cool weapons. These guys just got headaches for their trouble. Blorp narrated each failure with increasing confidence. As you can see, the shield matrix operates on a multi-dimensional frequency that exists outside conventional space. It intercepts incoming energy and matter by creating a localized pocket of null space. That Blorp, Krelther interrupted from his observation platform. Perhaps less technical detail, more inspirational commentary. Right? Yes, of course. What I mean to say is, the shields are very good. Extremely good. Impossible to breach. We've tested them against every conceivable threat across 14 different dimensional planes and found 0 vulnerabilities. Jack perked up at that. Every conceivable threat. Blorp's tentacles wiggled nervously. Well, yes. We've compiled a database of every weapon system, energy signature, and attack vector employed by the 6,000 species in Council space. The shields adapt in real time to counter any threat. The computational power required is staggering. The shield literally calculates the optimal defense faster than any attack can complete. That's pretty neat, Jack admitted. So it's like, what? A really smart wall? A really smart wall that exists partially outside of normal reality. Yes. A Zrathi warrior stepped into the arena, carrying something that looked like a medieval mace, but glowed with anti-gravity energy. This seemed promising. Finally, someone trying to physically hit the thing instead of shooting beams at it. The Zrathi wound up and swung with both arms. The mace connected with the shield and bounced off so hard that the warrior did a complete backflip and landed on his face. The crowd whooshed sympathetically. Jack winced. That had to hurt. Kinetic weapons are also ineffective, Blorp announced, sounding almost apologetic. The shields, null space field neutralizes momentum transfer. The faster something moves toward it, the more energy the shield absorbs to prevent contact. Krelther rose from his seat, all 6 arms spread wide in a gesture Jack assumed was the alien equivalent of a victory lap. Do you see? Primitive species, do you understand now why violence is obsolete? The Council has transcended such base instincts. We have created perfect defense. In 5,000 years, not once has our shield technology failed. Not once has a Council member been struck, injured, or inconvenienced by hostile action. The crowd applauded enthusiastically. Some aliens were actually crying. Jack couldn't tell if they were tears of joy or just really into shield technology. And now, Krelther continued, turning his attention to Jack with all 6 of his eyes. We come to the human, the representative of a species that still solves problems by hitting each other. Tell us, Jack Malone, what primitive method will you employ? What crude weapon will you select from your arsenal of violence? Jack stood up, suddenly aware that several thousand aliens were staring at him. The arena lights focused on his position. Somewhere, cameras were broadcasting this to 14 sectors of space. His mom was probably going to see this. That was embarrassing. Do I have to? Ask it. You have a choice, Krelther said, his tone making it clear that Jack did not, in fact, have a choice. Attempt to breach the shield and fail, or spend 3 decades contemplating your species' inadequacy in a correctional facility. Right? Well, when you put it that way. Captain Vex appeared beside Jack, carrying a metal folding chair. We retrieved this from your cargo hold. It appears to be a primitive seating device constructed from iron alloy. Will this suffice as your weapon? Jack looked at the chair, then at the shield, then back at the chair. You want me to hit the force field with a chair? Unless you prefer to use your fists. Vex's tone suggested he found the entire concept hilarious. Actually, Jack said slowly. An idea forming. Yeah, I'll use my fists. Vex blinked. You want to strike an impenetrable energy barrier with your unprotected appendages? That's what I just said. Yeah. Blorp's tentacles twisted anxiously. That seems inadvisable. The shield will absorb the kinetic energy, but the reaction force could damage your primitive bone structure. I really must recommend against. I'll be fine, Jack interrupted. He walked down to the arena floor, very aware that this was either going to be the coolest thing he'd ever done, or the dumbest. Possibly both. The shield generator hummed on its pedestal. The volunteer behind it looked concerned. Krelther leaned forward in his seat, clearly anticipating watching Jack break his hand. For the record, Jack announced to the arena at large, I think this whole thing is stupid. I crashed my ship by accident. I was just trying to deliver coffee. I don't represent humanity's capacity for violence. I'm a cargo hauler who's having a bad day. Your objection is noted, Crelther said. Proceed. Jack approached the shield. Up close, it looked like heat shimmer in the air. A subtle distortion that marked the boundary between normal space and whatever weird dimension the Council had decided to hide behind. He could see the volunteer on the other side watching him nervously. This is going to hurt, isn't it? Jack asked. Almost certainly, Blorp confirmed over the speakers. Cool. Great. Love that for me. Jack took a breath, drew back his fist, and then, because he was tired and frustrated and really just wanted to go home, he threw the most casual, annoyed punch of his entire life. Not a haymaker, not a devastating blow, just a quick jab. The kind of punch you'd throw at a door that would unopen, or a vending machine that stole your money. His fist went through the shield like it wasn't even there. Connected with the volunteer's face with a soft thwack, and then the entire arena erupted into chaos. Time did that weird thing where it both speeds up and slows down simultaneously. Jack's brain registered several things in rapid succession. First, his fist had definitely just passed through the supposedly impenetrable shield. Second, he'd just punched an alien in the face, which was definitely not covered by his insurance. Third, the alien was now falling backward off the platform in slow motion, all 6 of his arms windmilling uselessly. Fourth, and most importantly, 14 sectors of space had just watched it happen live. The volunteer hit the ground with an undignified thump. The arena fell silent, except for the hum of the shield generator, which continued operating as if nothing unusual had occurred. Jack pulled his hand back and stared at his knuckles, half expecting them to be broken or vaporized or turned into energy or something. They were fine. Slightly red, but fine. Jack said eloquently. Then everyone started screaming. Crelther was the first to recover, all 6 of his arms gesturing wildly. Impossible. The shields are perfect. This is a malfunction. Blorp? Explain this immediately. Blorp's tentacles flew across his datapad with the speed of pure panic. I don't understand. The shields are operating at full capacity. All systems nominal, no fluctuations in the null space field. No dimensional anomalies, no quantum irregularities. The math is perfect. The math is always perfect. I checked it 17,000 times, then check it again. Captain Vex roared, his own shield flaring brighter as if he could will it to be more impenetrable through sheer aggression. The volunteer Jack had punked was sitting up now, holding his face with 2 of his hands, while the other 4 supported him. He looked more confused than injured. What happened? Did the shield fail? The shield did not fail, Blorp insisted, his voice climbing into registers that Jack's translator struggled with. Look, the generator is still active. The field is stable. There's no indication of any malfunction whatsoever. It's as if the human's fist simply ignored the barrier entirely. Jack raised his hand like he was in school. Can I say something? No. Chorused at least 50 aliens simultaneously. I'm going to say something anyway. What if your shields just don't stop punches? The silence that followed was deafening. Blorp's entire body seemed to freeze, tentacles suspended mid-gesture. Crelther's shield flickered like it was experiencing an existential crisis. Captain Vex looked like someone had just told him his entire military career was a lie. That's absurd, Crelther finally said, but his voice lacked its usual confidence. The shields stop everything. Plasma, kinetic weapons, energy beams, psychic attacks, everything. We've tested them for 5,000 years. Right, Jack said, warming to his theory. But has anyone just walked up and punched one? Blorp's tentacles resumed their frantic dance across the datapad. Actually, no. Physical contact at low velocity isn't included in our threat database. All civilized species abandoned hand-to-hand combat millennia ago. There was no reason to test for it. The shields are designed to counter high-speed threats, advanced weapons systems, sophisticated attack patterns. But not a punch, Jack finished. But not a punch, Blorp agreed miserably. Captain Vex drew himself up to his full height. This proves nothing. The human struck one volunteered with one lucky blow. We should test this properly. scientifically. "Oh, I like where this is going," Jack said, grinning despite himself. 5 minutes later, they'd set up what could only be described as the galaxy's saddest experiment. 10 council members volunteered their personal shields for testing. They stood in a line like the world's most advanced and most nervous police lineup. Jack stood opposite them, feeling increasingly surreal about the whole situation. "This is ridiculous," Crowther muttered from the safety of the observation platform. He'd declined to volunteer his own shield for testing, Jack noticed. Blorp gave Jack a nervous nod. "Whenever you're ready, Mr. Malone. Please strike each shield with moderate force. We want to verify the phenomenon without causing actual injury." Jack approached the first volunteer, a dignified-looking alien who resembled a floating crystal cluster. "Sorry about this," he said, and delivered a light jab to where he estimated the alien's shoulder might be. His fist passed through the shield without resistance. He felt crystal beneath his knuckles. The alien let out a surprised, chiming sound. "Shield integrity maintained," Blorp announced, his voice getting higher with each word. "Force field is operational." The physical contact simply bypassed the null space barrier entirely. Jack moved down the line. Punch. 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 Each one connected with alien flesh or chitin or whatever each species was made of. Every single shield failed to stop him. By the time he reached the 10th volunteer, Jack felt like he was in the galaxy's strangest boxing match. The arena had gone quiet again. This wasn't the shocked silence from before. This was the silence of an entire civilization watching its fundamental assumptions crumble in real time. Blorp was muttering to himself now, tentacles trembling. The shields operate by intercepting matter and energy as they cross the dimensional threshold. They calculate optimal counterforce based on velocity, mass, and energy signature. But human muscular force at walking speed doesn't register as a threat. The shield ignores it. It's not a malfunction. It's a feature. We told the shields to ignore low-velocity organic matter because otherwise, they'd stop air molecules and the users would suffocate. Oh no. Oh no 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 no. "I think Blorp's having a breakthrough," Jack observed. "We've been vulnerable this entire time," Blorp continued, his voice barely audible. 5,000 years of shield technology. 5,000 years of perfect safety. And the entire time, anyone could have just walked up and punched us. We evolved beyond physical violence and assumed everyone else would too. We built our defenses around that assumption. We're idiots. We're colossal idiots. Captain Vex had gone very still, his shield humming around him like a security blanket that had just revealed itself to be decorative rather than functional. "This information cannot leave this arena. If the primitive species discover this weakness, 14 sectors are watching this live," Jack reminded him. "Pretty sure the cat's out of the bag." Crowther descended from the observation platform, his 6 arms hanging limply at his sides. His shield was still active, but now it just looked sad. Decorative. A very expensive nightlight. This is impossible. The Council has maintained peace through shield superiority for millennia. If anyone can simply strike us, then our entire defensive strategy is useless, Jack finished. "Yeah, I'm getting that impression." One of the Council members, a being that looked like living smoke, spoke up in a trembling voice. "What about the wars we prevented? The conflicts we mediated? Species agreed to our terms because they couldn't hurt us. If they learn they can just punch us, they're going to punch you," Jack agreed. "Probably a lot." "This is a catastrophe," Crowther said quietly. Jack felt a stab of sympathy despite himself. These aliens had built an entire civilization on being untouchable, and he'd just touched them with his feast on live television. He was definitely not getting his cargo delivery bonus this month. "Look," Jack said, "maybe it's not that bad. I mean, most species probably won't resort to violence just because they can now. You guys are still advanced and smart and all that. You just need to maybe be a little less smug about the shield thing." Blorp looked up from his datapad. "The human is right. We should probably implement some humility protocols, and also maybe hire security personnel who still know how to fight physically. I don't suppose humans would be interested in employment opportunities." Jack laughed, then realized Blorp was serious. then laughed harder. This day just kept getting weirder. The arena had transformed from a place of demonstration into what Jack could only describe as an intergalactic therapy session. Council members huddled in groups, their shields still active, but somehow less impressive now, like wearing sunglasses indoors after everyone's seen your face. Several species representatives had left the arena entirely, presumably to inform their governments that the Council's defenses were essentially decorative. Krelter paced back and forth on the platform, his 6 arms gesticulating wildly as he spoke into a communication device. "No, Director. You misunderstand. The shields function perfectly. They simply don't function against physical contact at low velocities." "Yes, I understand how that sounds. No, we cannot simply increase the sensitivity because then users would suffocate. No, recalibrating the dimensional matrix won't help because the problem is fundamental to the design. Because we never anticipated that anyone would try to punch us." Jack sat on the edge of the platform, watching the chaos unfold. Blorp had joined him, tentacles drooping in what Jack assumed was alien depression. "I should have tested for this," the tech officer muttered. 17,000 simulations, and I never once considered simple physical contact. "My career is over. I'll be demoted to moisture farming on a backwater colony." "Hey, you couldn't have known?" Jack offered. "I mean, you guys all stopped punching each other thousands of years ago. It's not your fault you forgot punching was a thing. It's entirely my fault. I'm the one who certified the shields as impenetrable." Blor pulled up a holographic display from his datapad. "Look at this. The shield's threat assessment algorithm. It prioritizes high-velocity projectiles, energy weapons, explosive devices, radiation, exotic matter, dimensional incursions, and psychic attacks. There's literally no protocol for handling a closed fist moving at 3 meters per second. Captain Vex approached them, his armor looking somehow less intimidating now that everyone knew his shield couldn't stop a slap. "The Council is convening an emergency session. Malone, you're required to attend." "Do I get a lawyer?" "You're not under arrest. You're under consideration." That sounds worse somehow. They moved to a smaller conference room adjacent to the arena. The 13 council members sat around a circular table, each one surrounded by their personal shield. Each one now acutely aware that those shields were basically fancy mood lighting. Jack took a seat at the center of the circle, feeling like a bug under a microscope. Krelter cleared his throat with 4 of his mouths, which was excessive but impressive. "Mr. Malone, in light of today's discoveries, the Council finds itself in an unprecedented situation. For 5,000 years, we have maintained order through technological superiority. That advantage has been compromised. Compromised is a diplomatic way of saying completely destroyed," muttered a council member who looked like a sentient plant. "Thank you, Councillor Ferndax Krelther," said dryly. "As I was saying, we must now reassess our defensive capabilities. To that end, the Council would like to extend an offer of employment to humanity." Jack blinked. "I'm sorry. What?" "You heard correctly. We wish to hire humans as security consultants. Your species retains the ability to engage in physical combat, which makes you uniquely qualified to protect Council members, now that our shields have been revealed as vulnerable to such attacks. You want to hire humans to be your bodyguards," Jack said slowly, making sure he understood correctly. "In essence, yes." Jack started laughing. He couldn't help it. The absurdity of the situation hit him all at once. The most advanced species in the galaxy, protected by technology beyond human comprehension, wanted to hire humans to stand around and punch people who got too close. It was the most ridiculous job offer he'd ever received, and he'd once been offered work as a professional pickle taste tester. "Something amusing, Mr. Malone?" Krelther asked, his tone frosty. "Yeah, actually. You guys spent 5,000 years calling everyone else primitive and barbaric for using violence, and now you want to hire the primitive barbaric species to do violence on your behalf. We prefer to think of it as outsourcing a specialized skill set," said Councillor Ferndax. "You're still just hiring people to punch other people. Handled with proper diplomatic language, the optics are more favorable." Captain Vex stepped forward, The human raises a valid point, but our pride is less important than our safety. If word spreads about the shield vulnerability, some species may attempt physical attacks on council members. We need individuals capable of intercepting such threats. You need bouncers, Jack translated. If you insist on using crude terminology, yes. Blorp's tentacles perked up slightly. Actually, from a tactical perspective, it makes sense. Humans are biologically suited for physical combat. Your bone density, muscle structure, and neurological reaction times are optimized for it. Most advanced species have evolved past those traits. We couldn't throw an effective punch if we tried. Have you tried? Jack asked. Blorp extended a tentacle and made a sort of flailing motion that looked more like waving goodbye than attacking. See. Completely ineffective. My species transitioned to energy-based defense mechanisms approximately 9,000 years ago. We've lost all muscle memory for physical combat. And you think hiring humans is the solution? It's a solution, Crowther admitted. Whether it's the solution remains to be seen. But given that 14 sectors just watched you bypass our defenses with casual ease, we find ourselves with limited options. Species that resented the Council's superiority now see an opportunity. We need protection, and we need it from beings who understand violence in a way we no longer do. Jack leaned back in his chair, processing this. Okay, let's say, I believe you actually want to hire humans for this. What's the pay? The council members exchanged glances. Crowther tapped on a data panel with 3 of his hands. We're prepared to offer standard council security wages, which translates to approximately 1 million human credits annually, plus benefits including full medical coverage, shield technology access, and residential accommodations on any council station. Jack choked on air. 1 million credits per year. Is that insufficient? We can negotiate. No. That's very sufficient. That's extremely sufficient. Jack's cargo hauling gig paid maybe 40,000 credits on a good year. 1 million was life-changing money. Retire to a beach planet. Money. Never deliver coffee again money. Then you accept our offer? Jack hesitated. I need to ask something first. When you say security work, you mean standing around looking tough and maybe occasionally stopping someone from punching you, right? You're not asking me to start a war or anything. Nothing of the sort, Crowther assured him. We're not hiring mercenaries, Mr. Malone. We're hiring deterrents. Your presence alone would likely prevent most physical altercations. Very few species would risk attacking a council member if they knew a human was nearby. Because we're scary. Because you can do something we cannot, Crowther said simply. That makes you valuable? Possibly the most valuable security asset in council space at the moment. Captain Vex nodded grudgingly. The human is also correct that simple presence may suffice. Once it becomes known that council members have human protection, most rational species will avoid physical confrontation. It's basic deterrence theory. So I'd basically be a really well-paid scarecrow, Jack said. A mobile defensive asset with autonomous decision-making capabilities, Blorp corrected. But yes, functionally similar to a scarecrow. Jack thought about his cargo hauler sitting in the damaged assembly hall. He thought about his outstanding repair bills, his mounting debts, and the coffee shipment he was now definitely not getting paid for. He thought about spending another 10 years hauling freight across space, one delivery at a time, hoping his ship didn't fall apart mid-flight. Then he thought about 1 million credits. I want 2 million, Jack said. Crowther's shield flickered. That's double our initial offer. Your initial offer was before you realized. I am, apparently, the only person in 14 sectors who can protect you from getting punched. Supply and demand. Ambassador. I learned that in basic economics. The human has a point, Councillor Ferndak said. If we're pioneering an entirely new security model, competitive compensation is logical. Fine, Crowther agreed, all 6 arms crossing in what was definitely alien body language for annoyance. 2 million credits annually, but we expect professional conduct and complete confidentiality regarding council affairs. Deal. Jack stood and offered his hand for a handshake. then realized that might be culturally inappropriate given recent events. How do you guys normally seal agreements? We exchange encrypted data tokens, Blorp said, holding out his datapad. Right. That makes sense. Very advanced. Jack pressed his thumb to the datapad's scanner, feeling slightly disappointed that intergalactic agreements didn't involve anything cool like blood oaths or ritual combat, just bureaucracy with better technology. Welcome to Council Security Service, Mr. Malone, Krelthor said, managing to make it sound both official and deeply reluctant. Captain Vex will provide your orientation and assignment details. I trust you'll represent your species with appropriate dignity. I'll do my best not to punch anyone unless absolutely necessary. That is literally your job description now. Yeah, but I'll do it with dignity. 3 months later, Jack stood outside Ambassador Krelthor's office on Station Zenith Neen, wearing what the Council called the security uniform, but what Jack called fancy pajamas with too many pockets. His official title was Human Security Liaison, which sounded way more impressive than professional puncher. But everyone knew what the job actually entailed. Turned out, the Council hadn't been exaggerating about the demand. Within a week of Jack's demonstration going viral across 14 sectors, the Council received approximately 6,000 requests for human security personnel. Apparently, every politician, diplomat, business leader, and celebrity in Council space suddenly wanted a human bodyguard. It was the hottest trend in the galaxy, like fidget spinners, but with more potential for violence. Earth's government, sensing an economic opportunity, had established the Human Security Initiative. Thousands of volunteers signed up, attracted by the absurd salaries and the chance to travel the galaxy. Former soldiers, martial artists, dancers, hockey players, and one very confused Pilates instructor all found themselves employed as protectors of alien dignitaries. Humanity had finally found its niche in galactic society. We were the species you called when someone needed punching. Jack's communicator buzzed. Blorp's anxious voice came through. Mr. Malone, we have a situation in Conference Room 7. The Thorian ambassador is refusing to leave until the Council agrees to his trade demands. He's being quite aggressive. Aggressive how? He raised his voice and made a rude gesture with his secondary appendages. Jack sighed. That's not really aggressive, Blorp. That's just being annoying. He also implied that Ambassador Krelthor's genetic lineage was questionable. Okay, that's slightly more aggressive. I'll be right there. Jack made his way through the station's corridors, nodding to the other human security personnel he passed. There were 12 of them assigned to Zenithine now, covering different shifts and council members. They'd formed a sort of unofficial union, meeting once a week to share stories and strategies. Mostly they talked about how weird their jobs were and how much money they were making. Conference Room 7 was easy to find. Jack just followed the sound of shouting. Through the transparent doors, he could see the Thorian ambassador, a large reptilian being, gesticulating wildly at Krelthor, who sat calmly behind his desk with his shield glowing protectively around him. Jack entered the room. Both aliens immediately stopped arguing and looked at him. Gentlemen, Jack said pleasantly, is there a problem? The Thorian ambassador's eyes narrowed. This doesn't concern you, Huan. This is a diplomatic matter between my people and the Council. Sure, but you're being kinda loud about it, and making Ambassador Krelthor uncomfortable. So I'm going to have to ask you to lower your voice and keep things civil. Or what? You'll strike me? Jack smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. I really hope it doesn't come to that. But yeah, if you try to physically attack the ambassador, I'll stop you. That's literally what they pay me for. The Thorian stared at him for a long moment. Jack could see the calculations happening behind those reptilian eyes. Could he take a human in a fight? Maybe. Was it worth finding out? Probably not. Would attacking a council member now that they had human protection cause an interstellar incident? Definitely. This isn't over, the Thorian finally said, backing toward the door. The Council cannot hide behind human violence forever. We're not hiding, Krelthor said smoothly. We're adapting. It's what civilized species do. The Thorian left, his tail swishing with agitation. Jack waited until the door closed before turning to Crowther. "You okay?" "Fine, thank you. Though I suspect that conversation would have been less civil without your presence." "That's the idea." Jack moved to leave, then paused. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Do you ever regret it?" "The whole shield thing, building your entire civilization around being untouchable." Crowther was quiet for a moment, his shield flickering thoughtfully. "I've been thinking about that question since your demonstration. We convinced ourselves that evolution meant leaving violence behind, that becoming civilized meant becoming immune to physical conflict. But perhaps we were just hiding from an uncomfortable truth." "What truth?" "That you can't transcend violence by simply insulating yourself from it. You can only transcend it by choosing not to engage in it, even when you could. Your species understands that. You can punch, but you choose when to punch. That's wisdom we lost millennia ago." "Huh?" Jack said. "That's actually pretty deep." "Don't sound so surprised. We may have forgotten how to fight, but we still know how to think." Jack's communicator buzzed again. This time it was Captain Vex. "Malone, report to the landing bay. We have a VIP arriving who specifically requested human security." "On my way." Jack nodded to Crowther. "Duty calls." "Before you go," Crowther said, "I wanted to thank you, not just for the security work, but for the lesson. You showed us that perfection is often just another word for vulnerability. That's valuable knowledge." "You're welcome, I guess. Though technically I was just trying to deliver coffee." "Yes. Well, history is full of accidents that changed everything. You're just the latest example." Jack made his way to the landing bay, where a sleek diplomatic shuttle was touching down. The door opened and out stepped a familiar figure. Blorp. But this blope was wearing what looked like a tiny security uniform custom-made for his jellyfish body. "Blorp?" Jack asked, confused. "What are you doing?" "I've transferred departments," Blorp announced, his tentacles somehow standing straighter despite having no bones. "I'm now a security consultant. Specifically, I'm the liaison between the Council and the Human Security Initiative. Someone needs to coordinate assignments and ensure proper protocol, and I've decided that someone should be me." "But you're a tech officer." "You ran the SHIELD demonstrations." "I was a tech officer." Past tense. I spent 5,000 years maintaining technology that made everyone feel safe, but didn't actually protect them. Now I want to work on something real, something that actually keeps people safe. By hiring humans to punch threats, by acknowledging that sometimes the simplest solution is the right one. Humans aren't better than us, Mr. Malone. You're just different, and right now, the galaxy needs that difference. Jack's communicator buzzed with an incoming message. He glanced at the screen and started laughing. "You're not going to believe this." "What?" "I just got a request. Someone wants to hire me for private security work." Jack showed Blorp the message. "It's from the Crix Collective. The same guys who tried to blast through the shields with plasma weapons at the demonstration. What do they want protection from?" "Doesn't say, but they're offering 3 million credits for a 6-month contract." Blorp's tentacles wiggled with what Jack had learned was excitement. "You should take it. This is how we build credibility. Show the galaxy that human security works across multiple contexts. 3 million credits. Blorp. I could retire after that." "You could. But would you?" Jack thought about it. 3 months ago, he'd been a cargo hauler delivering coffee and dreaming about retirement. Now he was a highly paid bodyguard in the middle of a galactic paradigm shift. It was weird. It was absurd, but it was also kind of exciting. "Probably not," Jack admitted. "This job is too weird to quit." "Excellent. I'll coordinate your deployment with the Crix Collective." "Oh, and Mr. Malone, the Council wanted me to inform you that they're commissioning signs for all stations and facilities." "Signs?" "Yes. They'll be posted outside every conference room, office, and public space where Council members might be present." Blorp pulled up a holographic image of the proposed design. It showed a simple pictogram of a fist with a red circle and line through it. The text below read, "Please don't punch. Diplomatic solutions preferred." Jack burst out laughing. "You're actually doing it. The galaxy's most advanced civilization is putting up no punching signs. We feel it's a reasonable precaution, though between you and me, I suspect they mostly serve as reminders that humans are nearby and punching remains a viable option. Best deterrent ever." Jack's communicator buzzed again, and again, and again. Requests for human security were pouring in from across Council space. Apparently, word had spread that Jack Malone, the human who'd accidentally revolutionized galactic security, was available for hire. "This is going to be a long career, isn't it, Jack?" "Saeed." "I believe so," Blorp agreed. "The galaxy spent millennia building walls between species. You proved that sometimes the wall is the problem that's going to keep you busy for a very long time. All because I wanted to deliver coffee and punched a force field. History will remember you as the human who changed everything. History has a weird sense of humor. Indeed it does." Jack looked out at the stars through the landing bay's transparent ceiling. Somewhere out there, thousands of humans were taking jobs as security consultants, bodyguards, and diplomatic deterrents. Earth had found its place in the galactic economy, and it was the weirdest place possible. But hey, it paid well. His communicator buzzed one more time. This message was from his mom. "Saw you on the galactic news. Very proud. But did you have to punch that nice alien in the face? Call me when you get a chance. Love you." Jack smiled and typed back a quick response. "Sorry, Mom. It was an accident. Also, I'm rich now. I'll explain later." He put the communicator away and turned to Blorp. "All right, let's coordinate this Crix contract. But after that, I need a vacation. Maybe somewhere quiet where nobody wants to hire me to punch things. There's a lovely planet in the Outer Rim. Very peaceful. No conflicts whatsoever." "Sounds perfect. Of course, they'll probably want to hire you for security the moment you arrive." "Of course they will." Jack Malone, former cargo hauler, current professional puncher, an accidental revolutionary, walked out of the landing bay with his new partner. Behind them, maintenance crews were already installing the first "Please don't punch" signs. The galaxy had spent 5,000 years building perfect defenses. It took one human with a bad attitude and a closed fist to prove that sometimes perfect was just another word for fragile. And now everyone wanted to hire the species that had figured out the obvious: humanity. Indeed.